This episode is sponsored by Zenro Clothing Co. Pick up your tees and or accessories at zenroclothingco.com and be sure to use offer code SOCRATES at checkout for 20% off select items. Also, if you're not into spending the money, just check out the Zenro radio playlist. zenroclothingco.com, music for your everyday. This episode also sponsored by The Pornian Bakery. If you're located in the Pornian area of Scarborough, Toronto, be sure to check out The Pornian Bakery, say what's up to Arville, and pick up a donut or two. Baked daily, crafted with love. This episode also sponsored by Podbean. Podbean is the podcasting platform of choice. It's the one that me and Vish use, and is great. You know, if you're looking to start that DIY podcast yourself, definitely check out Podbean. Use the link podbean.com/SocraticGamers and gain 1 month of unlimited podcasting for free. Test it out, build that content. Anyone could podcast, right, Vish?
Yep.
Start a podcast and get your ideas out there. All right, enjoy the episode. Okay, cool. So I actually had something else I wanted to start off with. I'll circle back to that after because I think I figured out the UFO thing. Like not like I'm not like, oh, UFOs real. Obviously they're real, but like what is going on? And I think it all just kind of clicked while I was listening to this story of like GSP in like Africa. But I'll get back to that because we were just talking about the chainsaw thing. So you checked out the video just now of the chainsaw. Like Elon Musk with a chainsaw. I didn't listen to what the girl was saying after when she's talking about like they're gonna cut your Medicaid, but then you started to like explain it. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Let's just like talk about it because I have a different approach of like why I think this is crazy, but like maybe there's an actual like I don't know, like what is the
like I mean,
some people are already
getting hurt from it, right? So Biden had passed some I think Medicaid thing for seniors where it was cutting down the like insulin price to like $8 or something, and then that stuff was removed, and the guy went to like refill his insulin thing is like now back to $80.
Oh wow, dang. Okay. Honestly, the price crunch thing, like let's say this is a nefarious scheme, right? Where it's like, okay, how do you control people? You can't control them through like ideology anymore. You control them through debt. So it's like, okay, we're going to bring it up to 80. It's like, okay, well, I got to take out this loan so I could survive. And then it's like, well, now you owe us extra money. You know what I mean? Like the worst kind of enslavement, like if you go back to Jesus, like that's why he like knocked over the tables in like the church. They were like selling stuff or whatever. And then he like knocked over the tables and he's saying like how like debt enslavement's bad. Or was it Muhammad? So, somebody was like the worst thing is like, I think it's Muhammad. That's why in Islamic countries, they don't do that interest. Like the high interest. Yeah. I don't know if they do. They must do interest because like how do you get back money? But like
there's a different way that they do it.
Yeah. Because Khabib, I remember him talking about it. Somebody wanted him to like invest, like be the sponsor for some like investment thing, and he's like, no, because it goes against my religious beliefs. So I was like, oh, that's crazy. So yeah, I don't know. I feel like that from that angle, you know, it's like you can really enslave people because like $8 to $80, like whoa.
Yeah.
Are you
but
noticing?
This person voted for Trump too, right? So
all right, so that's why I want to bring this up. So like when you said that this person voted for Trump, so I was like, you know, I'm all into the UFO stuff, and like you know Chris Cuomo.
Yeah.
Totally into Trump. Like, oh my God, Trump's the best, whatever. Patrick Bet-David. Oh, I'm so into Trump. He hasn't really said anything yet, but I noticed Chris Cuomo said something. I'm like, that's kind of interesting. So Chris Cuomo was like super pro-Trump, right? And then now he's kind of attacking Elon. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Like kind of like not making fun of him, but like, what are you doing kind of thing, you know? And then I was watching this Jeremy Corbell interview with Chris Cuomo, and that's where it came up because it was like Trump breaks promise about UFOs. Right? Because leading up to the election, he was like, oh, I'm gonna like tell you all what's going on with UFOs and like what are these drones in New Jersey? We all know, so we're gonna let you all know. Okay. So that was the promise. And then so he comes out and he says the exact same thing as what Biden's administration said. It was like, oh, we know what these are, blah, blah, they're commercial, yeah, totally fine, right? And Jeremy Corbell is so pissed. He's like, you said you were gonna tell people what the truth is. Right? So it's like, and now they're pissed at him because they're like, oh, you just like you lied.
Right.
You ran on this like platform and you're not even delivering it. Just like the guy with like he voted for Trump It went from $8 to $80.
Mm-hmm.
Like these UFO people voted for Trump, and then we got no disclosure. And you're like,
Mm-hmm.
what are you doing? Technically, though, did you see the conspiracy I call it the conspiracy task force. Did you see that one? So he like,
Some lady that was running it. Is that
yeah,
what you're
yeah,
talking about? Yeah, I had seen a
Representative
clip of
Luna.
that.
Yeah, yeah. So she was really vocal at the UAP hearing. And I was like, oh, she was asking some really interesting questions, which I'll bring up because she said something that at the time I was like, you're crazy, bro. I'll just say it now. So she's like, are these craft living? And I'm like, what does that mean? Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then the the person who learned physics through one of these UFO alien encounters, he was like, um, he was like, these things operate like human beings. Like they're essentially like human beings, but the consciousness is the pilot for the UAP craft, just like the consciousness is the pilot for our human bodies. And I'm like, oh, is that what she meant? You know what I mean? Like at the time, you're like, oh, that sounds crazy, and then you're like, oh, it clicks now. Now that you have more information, you know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? So like, yeah, so that was the lady, and then she's in charge of looking into the JFK assassination, Martin Luther King assassination, the origin of COVID, UAPs, and I'm like, why are these all these conspiracies put together? You know? And then she's like, I'm the leader of the task force. It's like there's a weird, there's a weird like truth seeking in America right now. You know?
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel like the fact that they made this a thing is crazy to me. Like a task force directly for this, and like the Doge, like Department of Efficiency or something,
Mm-hmm.
government efficiency, and you're like, what are you guys like looking for? You
Right.
know?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
But by default, if you're looking for something, that must mean that thing is broken. You know? It's like, oh, we're looking for corruption. Okay, so you admit corruption's real. So like the whole government's corrupt because you're literally putting these people in place to look for corruption.
Mm-hmm.
Would
But
you
they
agree, or
have.
you're like, no, not necessarily?
I mean, we'll have to see because I don't know if that's if they're looking for corruption, they have yet to find proof of corruption.
Oh, so maybe it's like a false
Because
flag.
none
Like
of
it's
the
like,
like the stuff that they're releasing or whatever. Oh, why is this money going there? Money going there. These are not hidden stuff. This was what they passed through Congress. You could
yes,
just
okay,
look those stuff up.
totally, totally, totally. So like, I don't know if this is true or not, but it's like Sean Ryan's soapbox platform, and he was saying that we're sending like millions of dollars every week to Al Qaeda. So basically, Al Qaeda took over the country, and then they turned it into a government. And then now that person in government is meeting with the UN, and like we're sending aid, but it's like aid can be anything. So you're really just funding these terrorist organizations. That's his platform. And I was like, if that's true, that's kind of crazy. And that's what everyone's saying, like in the
Right,
US
right.
government,
But
right?
again, it's like as most people thought, it's actually sending money to Ukraine, but it was just sending weapons. That's not
Ex-
really money.
Exactly, right?
So if
Yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah,
aid,
yeah.
then they're just probably sending aid, like actual like food items or things like
Oh,
that.
no, no. He said it was like money. It's like money. It's like
No, I
money
know,
in
but I'm
their
saying like the
account. Yeah.
same misconception of thinking that they were sending money, only money to Ukraine, right?
Right. Oh, I see. You're saying like it might be like like a lost in translation
Yeah,
thing. Like
and
you
some
didn't
of
really
these,
look into it.
yeah, and some of these things are not. It's like these are allocated to do that, but not necessarily that's even processed and gone through with it yet.
Right, 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 right. Okay, see how many like weird holes that were kind of like, oh, that's kind of weird. That's kind of
Because
weird.
this like again, it's like because they're doing. See, like what he's doing. It seems like they're just throwing out so
Who?
much.
Trump
Trump,
or
yeah, I would say
yeah,
Trump,
okay.
throwing out so much stuff that they're doing something else that's
Like
because
what are
there's
you
so
not
much
seeing?
yeah, there's so much information.
Oh,
How do you follow it, right? And they're trying to see what can stick, what doesn't stick, like all these whatever things that he's signing to do, and it's like, oh, that's being blocked, or like this being blocked. Like if you do so many, it's like some's gonna go through,
right, right, right.
or
It's
they're
sort of like
testing the waters of how much power do I can I have.
yes, yes. That's a great point because the whole
Like
thing
there
with
was
the
the
yeah,
thing with Doge, and then sending out like, oh, why are they're sending out money to people that are like 130 or years old or something. Like there was a
yeah.
list of this number of whys or old age security or whatever they call it there, and then it's like, no, that's not what it was saying. It's like
Ooh,
it, it's not
interesting.
like these people are not officially have a death certificate to be connected with that social insurance number or whatever that they have, but that if you look at the actual number that's going out to the actual people, it's not including those people at all, right? Like they're already dead. So it's just
Right,
like it's not like
right, right,
officially
right.
connected with a death certificate, something like that,
You
right?
know,
But it's
so
like, but
so
like
it,
that's like
yeah.
understanding like why they have these numbers. Because if you actually you're just sending out the number, we don't know what that really means. But then if you do an audit, that's where it's telling you what
Yes.
the truth information. So with the audit report within that, it's like it's saying that only this much amount of money is going out to these people.
Yes, and it's like essentially there's holes in the system and they're taking advantage of the holes. Like Pacific Mall. Like you're like, "Oh, if you pay no tax, you get it for
No, I
cheaper."
don't think. Well, I mean, like for instance, for the just the old age thing, it's not a hole in the system. That's just the process. If you don't understand the process,
Mm,
you're it's like you don't if you don't know the nuance, right? Like what it
okay.
actually implies. You're sending out information with basically lying what you're showing what it is saying. It's not saying that they're
So
sending money to people
give me
age 140 years old or something.
give me an analogy. So like definitely like yeah, yeah, but like what is it similar to? Like dumb it down for me. That's why I was trying to do the Pacific Mall thing, you know? Well, it's like similar to Pacific Mall.
Well, it's like let's say I don't know. It's hard to like to talk about something. Let's say something about science or some sort of research,
Okay.
but you just you just send out the graph, but you're not really explaining what the graph is talking about.
Oh, I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying. Yes, yes. In marketing, we do that all the time. It's like yeah, yeah, that's actually a great analogy. So it's like nobody's digging into the data, but you're looking at the high level stuff. But it's like if you don't look at the intricacies of what that data means, it's like you
Mm-hmm.
can't really read it, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
Um, and especially like correlation and causation. So you're like, oh, there's a strong correlation between having high vitamin D and not contracting COVID. But it's like, but that's not a causation, it's just correlation.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
that's just one piece in the whole thing and then you're like blowing that one thing out of proportion,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
essentially. Is what you're
Yeah,
saying?
yeah, 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 yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So with that too, you were talking about like hiding certain things within bills. You're like, well, what can I pass, right? So the
Mm-hmm.
funny part is, you know, the NHI, the thing where it's like, oh, they wrote NHI into Congress.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
that
yeah.
wasn't its own bill. They put that little thing. It's like a little excerpt in a
Mm-hmm.
giant thing. So as they were signing the giant thing, they like, okay, we're gonna let this NHI. That's how they're sneaking the information out. They're like, okay, if we put some NHI stuff in
Mm-hmm.
here, and then the person doesn't really know what this is, then we start talking about the NHI. You know what I mean? But like in essence, that feels like a hole to me. It's like you're just playing some weird game. You know?
Yeah. I don't know. Again, this is you have to understand how government works. I guess, right?
The
It's
government's the game. You know? It's like that's the game,
right.
bro.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So it's like again, it's like passing these bills in Congress. Why are we sending money here? Well, it was all in within that the stuff that you signed off that the
Yeah,
Congress agreed on.
totally.
Right.
Right. But it's like, how do you get 100 people on the same page? Because there's like so many people in Congress, right? So it's
Yeah, but
like,
you don't have to necessarily. It's not 100% pass, right? You have to
no, no,
whatever the
for sure. But it's
yeah.
like let's say passing rate like 60%, but still, that's
Sure.
like you have to inform everybody about what's going on. You know, like there's so it just seems like Department of Government Efficiency. It's like the most inefficient thing is so many people looking into
Hmm.
like this one thing, and they're all confused. But we might have it completely like wrong. Because who knows, like maybe Elon Musk is actually seeing something we're not seeing. You know, maybe it's way more ridiculous than it is. But I don't know if that's true. I'm just saying, like
No, but he himself said
from
like
that kind of.
we're gonna get some things wrong. We'll try to fix it, or like you know what I mean. Like, but
Mm.
that means you're not really looking into. You're just sending out information. That's like that's bad in that sense because you're giving out
Yeah.
wrong
So, yeah.
information without actually giving proof that it's actually something wrong.
Right. Okay. I think that Elon Musk really thinks he's. Oh, I mean, I think I am also playing. I think I think he's cracked the code to become Neo in the Matrix. So if you, because I read
Hmm.
his book, right? Like I'm like looking at his like story, and he's like, he really wanted one thing that he. All right, so one thing that he said in his main book, and this is like the prime takeaway. It was the opening story, and it like carried itself throughout. He was like beaten up so badly on the schoolyard, right? And then
Hmm.
he like something clicked in him, and he's like, I'll never get beaten up again if I own the schoolyard.
Hmm.
So
Oh
you're
yeah, yeah,
like,
yeah.
that's right. You're like, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, like
But
there was a lot of other things that like coming to surface, like what if there's any conflict of interest, because like them letting or like getting involved with the FAA and stuff. His company was getting sued by the FAA for not like regulation issues.
okay.
So now that he's involved in it, it's like that person that was the head of FFA resigned,
Oh wow, interesting.
right? So it's like things like that where it's like, well, then he's not
He's
gonna get
owning he's
his
owning
company
the
won't get
schoolyard.
sued. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Dude, maybe that's what it is. This was like the long game. Maybe he's like, oh, I see a patsy in Trump. I can get in and
Hmm.
then become like, I won't become president, but I can be the one that has more power than the president because I'm pulling more strings.
Right.
Because the chainsaw thing to me, it wasn't like you're like, oh, it's just a chainsaw, bro. Chill out, you know? And it's like, no, it was more like you don't care about the system. Like you don't care about like you're so above this video game, this like simulation that you see,
Right.
like you're like, I'm Neo in the Matrix, bro. I can do whatever I want.
Yeah.
I'm untouchable.
Hmm.
Right. And you're like, you can you can literally get away with like not being professional.
Hmm.
I mean, like, because people are like, oh, but professionalism's colonialism. Professionalism's bad, right? And like, okay, I get that, but like, we still need to have some order. Like, you bringing out a chainsaw, waving it around, and like, that's
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
great.
yeah.
That's blatantly like, I don't
Right.
care about the system. Like,
Yeah.
I'm
There.
so powerful, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah. Even with George, I just remembered like another thing where it's like some reports showed that they were gonna buy was it 300, I don't know how much money it was, but 300 million or something like that, but like of Cybertrucks for the government.
Oh wow.
And then
See, that's like you're
they changed that to not show Cybertruck to like EV vehicles or something like that.
wow. And then it's actually Cybertrucks.
Right, yeah.
Dude, I'm seeing Cybertrucks everywhere. Like literally, like at first it was like, oh yeah, that's rare. You know, nobody's really gonna buy it. But I'm literally seeing mothers driving Cybertrucks. Like, what are you doing, bro? And
Hmm.
like Tara's like, oh, that must have been like a husband purchase because no, like, what wife's gonna be buying that, bro? It's so ugly. It's so like
Right,
in
right,
your
right, right.
face, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And like I'm driving up, I'm like, oh, who's that? Who's that? I'm expecting like some young rich Asian dude or like, like a techie looking dude, and it's
Hmm.
always like a mom. I swear it's always a mom so
That's
far. And
interesting.
I'm just
Okay.
like, that's weird. There's a blacked out one at
Hmm.
the place where I trained knife fighting. It was outside and it was like matte black and it looked so sick. I was like, dude, that's like a Batmobile, bro. And then as I drove past, it was a mom. And I was like, what's going on, bro? Like, did like I don't even understand that, you know?
Hmm.
Unless maybe like the husband's the breadwinner and then like these things are so expensive, so he's just like, I'm just gonna buy this for fun. You know, or like I want to keep you
Right, right,
safe because it's bulletproof. Like I'm not sure like what the angle is there, but it's been moms, which is really weird to me.
right.
You
Oh,
know.
that hasn't been my experience, but yeah.
Oh, okay, you've not seen moms driving
No,
this
I
thing.
don't think I've seen. It's
A
mainly
single
been
mom?
men. Yeah,
Oh,
for
really? Oh,
me.
that's so weird. Oh,
I
that's
think
weird.
almost
Like,
100% is men for me. Yeah.
oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Because I literally last night it happened again. I was driving back from this seminar,
yeah. Hmm.
and it was in your area too. And then I saw like a Cybertruck, so I like sped up. I'm like, oh, I'm curious. And it was again a mom, and I was like, confused. Oh, that's interesting. You've been seeing men, but anyways, so that's a tricky way to do it. Like, oh, we're just gonna put more EVs, and it's like the actual EV is the Cybertruck, right? That is some Kim Jong Un stuff, bro. No, for real, right? Like you're like, oh, I don't even care about the video game anymore. That's
Hmm.
like some straight up North Korea, you know?
Right,
Like where
right.
he's like, everyone's starving and he's fat. And you're like,
Yeah, yeah,
what?
yeah.
What's going on? You know? And he's like, oh, what did like he's like, I wrote like I have a perfect basketball score. And they're like, yes, you do. I'm like, everybody must cry as I leave. You know, it's like it's becoming like that.
Yeah, I mean, like I mean, Trump even said, like, even his in his own like tweet on his thing, like, "Long live the king," right?
But what king, bro? Like
Him,
him?
yes.
Oh, see, that's kind of weird. That's weird, bro. Like, that's weird. That's weird to me. And like like Elon Musk, I love Trump more than any man I could ever something. And I was just like, what are you saying, bro? Or Elon said that about Trump. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
it was just crazy, and you're like, this government has become a real mockery. And the craziest part about it is it's emboldening people that think like Trump to be more like Trump.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, oh, this worked. It's like we're seeing in Canada, like I brought it up before, but the Polivier guy, when he's like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I only recognize two genders. I was like, oh, chill out, bro. Like,
Mm-hmm.
we're not in America, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And then he lost my vote because I was like, okay, out of good conscience, I can't vote for something like that. It's kind of weird, you
Mm-hmm.
know? But I was like, oh, liberals are doing bad, but you're just like, that's too weird, bro. Like we can't regress into like some chimp-like behavior, you know?
But it seems like that's what's spreading across the
Happening.
world. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Across
Yeah.
the world? What do you mean?
Yeah. Oh, like who they're
Okay,
voting in.
so I saw Jagmeet Singh just now on like I didn't watch the full thing, but it was Jagmeet and Bernie Sanders,
Yeah.
and then Jagmeet was talking about like medical, like how they're pushing out bad socialized medicine in favor of private practice,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then Bernie was like, "Well, that's what's happening around the world." I was like, "Around the world," and then we had to do this podcast, so that's why I was kind of late. But like, what? So you're seeing other leaders
Yeah. I mean,
become
if
like Trump?
there's a
That's crazy.
Germany election going on, seems to be leaning towards the right as well,
Wow. Okay.
right?
I don't know if. Okay, let's say Stephen Greer is correct, right? And there's like these UFOs and like not like not aliens. I'm saying like human reproduction vehicles, and
Mm-hmm.
like they have a fleet of they have all the money, all the power, and they have a fleet of UFOs. Okay, at their disposal. Are they making their play right now? You know, it's like, oh, let's just get like corporations in charge of the world
Mm-hmm.
because it's very like corporate heavy. Like the Trump thing's very corporate heavy. Like you're doing something nefarious, bro. And then with Polivier, I'm like, oh, it's kind of weird too, bro. Like they all seem to be on the same page.
Mm-hmm.
There's this them. I'm just speculating, but it's kind of weird that we're all moving in that direction right now. Or do
Yeah.
you think it's something in the past that happened that you know?
Uh, I mean, it's a mixed bag. It's just the economy was doing bad. It's always going to be the incumbent. But now I don't know if we're leaning way too far towards the other side.
Mm. But maybe it's like the fear. If we keep everyone in a fear state, then this is gonna happen.
But I think that's what they're playing on. Yeah,
Yeah, that's crazy, bro.
that's generally
If
what
you,
they're
yeah.
playing on. Yeah, I think that makes total sense. Yeah.
When was World War II? Like not even.
Well, it
What was
cut.
it? Was it 100 years ago?
Not quite. 19. Well, it started
That's
when in
crazy.
1940. 45 was when it ended. Yeah.
1945. That's crazy to think about. It hasn't been 100 years. So you're like, what are the ramifications of this long-term chess game that people from World War II have been playing?
Mm-hmm.
I kind of just feel like I if you like I really think this. The UFO subject is the apex of truth right now because there's some stuff going on that we all see it and we're like, what's going on there? And then we're being lied to, right? So the reason why it's that the apex is like, okay, you're being lied to. All right, so we're understanding the principles of being lied to. Okay, there's commercial aspect to it. Okay, we're understanding the commercial aspect to it. Okay, we're like the social psychology of it. You know what I mean? Like so many pieces are interwoven and like it's a microcosm of this macrocosm. Like it's a microcosm of like all these problems magnified.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh, if you just look at the UAP subject, or it's sort of like this. When I was in business school, the reason why I did so well is because I just looked at the bakery because I was working in the bakery, and I'm like, business is universal. All the principles are the same, like shipping, accounting, money coming in, money going out, revenue, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like,
Yeah.
okay, you just look at the bakery, like when I used to work there, it's a small business. And then you just extrapolate that to a bigger business. And then little did I realize till later was like, okay, you can extrapolate that even further. And that's how governments work,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like the principles that a bakery, like GDP is really just like your net income. Yeah, net income at the end of the year. It's like how profitable are you, right? So like UFOs to me, it's really just like this this small example of how corrupt the entire world is. Because if Stephen Greer is correct and like you have all these corporations like hiding their technology, okay, why are you hiding the technology? Why are you not
Mm-hmm.
giving it to us? You know what I mean? Like, oh, why are you keeping it? But this all happened like allegedly in the 19 around the 1940s they cracked gravity. And that's where this whole UFO thing began. So you're
Mm-hmm.
like, if it's been the 1940s and it hasn't even been 100 years, bro, like we are still on the same wavelength of the past.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like people are still alive from that time. Like let's say the grandpa of Trump was like, "Hey, don't trust these people," and then he like, "Okay, cool," and
Mm-hmm.
then like you're just passing down that information. It's only been like one generation off,
Mm-hmm.
technically. My grandma's still alive and she remembers World War II.
Right.
Like that's wild. Do you know somebody who's alive that remembers World War II?
No. No.
Okay, so my
Well, it
so
wasn't the
my grand
same other parts of the world, right? The focus wasn't World War II. That's
no, but like this when the Spanish took over the Philippines and then she remembers like that little scenario.
yeah. I mean, there
Around that.
was people that I knew about with the Portuguese, like fighting the Portuguese and stuff like that. Yeah.
Right. But like what I'm saying is, so World War One was just a catastrophe. Like you're like, oh, it was like when you learn about it in school, it's like a powder keg, right? Like all these little countries are just upset, and then it exploded into a giant world war.
Sure.
And then from that, we started to get superpowers, right? You got like Britain, and then from World War One, you got like Hitler, right? Because he was
Mm-hmm.
upset at what happened, and then he started to like build his stronghold, right? Of like influence.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, he started to take over the world, and then we all fought back. America like fought against them, and like Britain fought against them, and then following that, we know about like Operation Paperclip. We started bringing like brilliant Nazis over to the West,
Mm-hmm.
right? So you're like, what ideology still remained from World War II that we're still running on now?
Mm-hmm.
Because the DEI stuff, when Trump's like, oh, it's because of like the plane crash because DEI. I'm like, dude, that's like when you said the Jews, bro. Like, what do you say? Right? Like, oh,
Right.
the
Without
money's not for the
evidence.
Jews,
Yeah.
but like,
Straight.
dog, what?
Yeah. Right.
Right? And I think the principles still remain. And if that's why like a lot of people say if you don't look into history, it just repeats itself.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And we're it feels like we're in the midst of a repetition of history.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be really crazy if you can like zoom out, right? Like let's say 300 years in the future. And then you're like and you could study it like, okay, World War One happened, it upset Hitler. Then World War Two happened, America killed Hitler. But then America was like, whoa, we could take over the world? Hold on. And then they brought their brilliant minds and they're like, yeah, that's kind of how we did it, blah, blah, blah. Like propaganda, like communications, public relations, like marketing public relations. There's a dude, Noam Chomsky.
Yeah.
Okay, so I read the book. I was like, oh, dude, that's crazy. I didn't even know this. They took propaganda and then they turned it into public relations. That's
Mm-hmm.
literally the
Mm-hmm.
history. And then like people at work who are like very activisty, they're like, I'm with you guys. Like they're like, oh, I know the history of marketing. I'm like, me too. And that's why I'm always like, it's the force, bro. It's like it's good or evil. It's like how you
Right.
want to play the game, you
Yeah.
know? But like these mind manipulations are like just general tricks, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But then you're like, are you using the strategy of the Nazis to help bolster America? I don't know. Like, what do you think? Like, you see the through line, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Or like even the
He's
Captain
playing the
America
same.
movie.
He's playing the same tricks that was played at the time. Well, it's Trump I'm talking about. I don't
Yeah.
I don't know if he like truly believes these things. But
Right. But it's like the propaganda and the public relations, right?
mm-hmm.
It's like
Mm-hmm.
they're similar, but how you playing it?
Hmm.
It's still the same trick,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
like what's the ends for it? And I feel like America, because if you listen to it, even like Sean Ryan, you listen to the way that soldiers think, they're like, we want to bring peace and freedom to the whole world. You're
Hmm.
like, I'm sure Hitler did too.
Oh yeah, yeah,
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, yeah.
right? So it's like, are you good or evil? It's like, I don't know. Depends on what it's looking like. But right now, from this perspective of looking at Elon, it's like, that's weird, bro.
Hmm.
With the chainsaw. You know,
Yeah.
it really does feel like North Korea to you, right? Like that's kind of like
Oh
not
yeah, yeah,
obviously it's
yeah,
not
yeah,
North
yeah.
Korea,
I
but
mean,
like you're like it's kind of weird.
there's a level of dictatorship feel to it. Sure.
Yeah, right. And like um, Bernie Sanders being like, "Oh, the oligarchs have taken over," and you're like,
Mm.
I always heard that was a bad thing,"
Hmm.
like, and you're like, "Oh, it kind of is, man." Like how you said the EV thing, and then we're just like
Hmm.
hiding the EVs as Cybertrucks,
Hmm.
you know? Yeah,
Like they
it
actually, it
looked like
said
yeah.
Cybertrucks, and then they changed it to say EV so that
See,
it
that's
doesn't.
crazy, bro. That's crazy. But like, do you see the Amazon thing where that worker was like, or no, Tesla? He was a worker. He used to work at Amazon. He's like, um, so he was like, oh, I'm working like 7 days a week to get these robots online.
Hmm.
And then he's like, if you don't think they're
I've
gonna
seen
take
it.
your job,
Yeah.
okay. So there's like this worker who like filmed the TikTok and it's been going viral. It actually went over to Reels, so it went from TikTok to Reels, and he was saying how he's working 7 days a week for like 12 hours a day. He's getting paid nice, but he's like they're really trying to turn these fleet of robots online. The the
Hmm.
um, the cyber what was it? The
Oh,
Optimus?
oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so they're really working hard at making the Optimus come online. And he was saying like because it'll take your job away. And you're like, what do you mean? And then there was so this other thing like these Amazon workers revolted and then Bezos was like, "That's cool," and he brought in some robots to like take over during the revolt, like during their like their union strike kind of thing. He's like, "All right, yeah, that's fine, cool." And then he brought them in, and then people were like, "You don't realize that this is just a test pilot." Like the reason why he didn't care, he's like, "Yeah, cool, we're gonna test pilot, see if we can actually use the robots instead of humans." And you're
Hmm.
like, "Yeah, that's true, bro." Like this is like some seven-dimensional chess we're playing, you know?
Yeah.
And like that could be the future. We could literally just have like robots taking over the world, but then what do regular people do?
Hmm.
And
I don't think that will necessarily work out because there was a good argument that I heard before. If everyone is taken over by robots or as a job,
yeah,
who's going to buy people's products?
maybe we'll have a utopia at that point. I don't
Yeah,
know. Like if we had zero
that's
point
what I'm saying. I'm
energy plus
like
like
in order for especially the way our economy is set up, you need people to be able to spend money. So if nobody has jobs, nobody can spend money, right?
oh, I see what you're saying. That's true.
So
That's
when I
true.
heard that argument, I was like, that's a pretty good. That makes
Yeah,
sense.
because what are you gonna do? Like, yeah, there's gonna be no money flowing. You're
Why
just
would
gonna crash
robots
the
buy
economy.
products unless you do make it I guess.
Okay, I really don't think we're gonna have like Terminator style reality. Like Sarah Connor, like the robots turn and then they're like taking over the world. Like
Hmm.
I don't think so. Maybe that'd be crazy, but like I don't think so. So like if we are on this pursuit of people not having to work, you're right. It's like how do economies work then?
Hmm.
Because then you're like because okay, if you release zero point energy, infinite free clean energy, okay, and then you have these robots, it's like you literally what's the point of having what's the point of having a democracy? Okay, why are wars fought? And I heard a dude on Sean Ryan say it, and I was like, yeah, because you're in the army, so you see it too. We've talked about it before as resources. The
Hmm.
only reason why we fight wars is because of a lack of resources. If we all
Hmm.
had infinite resources, you wouldn't fight. It's like, hey, I want that. All right, cool here. You know, the only reason why like you fight over it is because there's not that much. Like
Sure.
there's not that much land. There's not much like
Hmm.
oil. There's not,
Hmm.
and that dictates the power structure. It's like whoever owns this owns the world, right? So if you give everyone free infinite energy, Like, okay, so you've abandoned that structure. There's no point in society. There actually is no point in society.
Right. But I don't think that just because it's infinite, just different minerals, right? It's not like the infinite energy. I don't know what kind of energy it is, right? If it's
Let's say electric, sure.
sure,
But then you need like
you
battery
still
power,
need
batteries.
battery, you still need lithium, and you still need like all these other components. It's not
Oh, so
like
you'll still,
it's
right,
still
right,
like
right.
minerals we still need, right?
Okay, no, 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 true, true, true. But then it's like, who will like? Let's say you have a robot getting that mineral for you. So
Mm-hmm.
you take away. Oh, maybe this is like the ultra long game. It doesn't matter who. It doesn't matter about people not having jobs and about society. It matters about who owns those minerals, like you said. Who owns the infrastructure of continuing world peace, and that person becomes the world leader. The world leader, not even a
Right.
country
That's
leader.
the one world government,
One
right?
world government.
Right.
Yeah. But maybe they see that. They're
Well,
like
yeah.
if
I mean, I don't know how long of a game that is. Like, would they still be alive if that's the game they're playing?
no, but I think that these people think of in terms of okay, so there's that book, right? Like Die with Zero, and it's like,
Mm-hmm.
right, play life like a video game. But these people are like, I want to make my name last.
Mm-hmm.
They don't care about like their life. They care about the next generation's life. You know people like that, right?
Yeah.
It's like
Sure. Sure.
my legacy, right? You're like, I don't really care about it, but like, so I think from their perspective, it's like it doesn't matter how long this game is.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Because like it's more about will the Elon name last throughout? Like it'll be like the Elons will run the one world government.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you just have the infrastructure, it's like, yeah, everyone's at peace. You're like, all right, cool. Like, I could do whatever I want every single day. I could do jujitsu all the time. But who owns the fact that you get to, who owns the playground? Like he
Mm-hmm.
was saying, remember, like, I will never get beat up again because I'll own the playground.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, okay, if you own the infrastructure of the world, we have infinite energy. We have no need to work because robots are doing it. It's like, yeah, enjoy your peace, but it's because of me, bro.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, I think that's the only logical step in my mind, where it's like you don't want to become you don't want to become a country leader. You want to become the world leader.
Mm-hmm.
And the only way to like lead a world is you need everybody to buy from you. Are you seeing that argument, or you're kind of like, ah, no, it makes no sense.
I mean, sure. I just don't. I mean, there's just too
If
many
you
countries involved. Like, I don't know. Like,
no, no,
right.
but he's like, hey, I'm gonna give your country free infinite energy. I'm gonna give your country robots. All your people have to do is just chill out, bro. And then they're like, oh, we get to like we've been so hungry for so long. Yeah, that's right, man. I'm gonna give you like robots to hoe the fields, and you guys get all the food. And it's like, oh, thank you. And like you become the de facto leader at that point.
Mm-hmm.
you know like like you don't even care about laws. You care about survival, because you're literally giving people the way of life.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? It's like,
Sure.
I'm giving you freedom.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Could that be what's going on?
I mean,
Like
this is all
writing in the
speculation. Who knows
no, no,
until
but
that
like
actually happens? I
no,
understand what
no,
you're saying.
right.
I don't know. Right.
Like totally, it's speculation, but it's like calculated speculation. You're just like, what's going on here, bro? Where are we moving? Because I'm like, why does this guy not care?
Mm-hmm.
You you
There's, I
you
don't
have
know.
confidence.
I understand that. But sometimes you don't know all the where all the chess pieces are, kind of thing, right? Like you're.
Yeah, totally.
I guess you can act like you're hoping it goes in that way. I guess you're trying to control as much as possible, but I don't know if you can control everything in that way
Right, right,
necessarily.
right. But maybe this is Elon's biggest gamble. Like, I'm gonna
Sure.
bring us to Mars. It's like his biggest gamble, bro. He's like, I can bring the world together,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
not through an alien invasion hoax, but by providing the entire world with infinite free energy and the ability to not have to work and just enjoy the rest of your life.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's like if I can provide that to the whole world, and then we're colonizing space, it's like that's some video game level stuff.
Yeah, I'm sure
Like, you know
there's.
what I mean?
I get it. I get it. I'm sure there's other ways to do that. Right now, he's getting a lot of hate, right, from
No, no, for sure,
the
for
other
sure. But
side. So it's like, what's the best way to do that, right?
no, yeah, you're right. You're right. I'm not trying to be like an Elon apologist or like
No, 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 no. I know.
say.
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying,
I'm
like,
just
I
like,
think.
why is this happening? You know?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, if he really wanted to do that, I think you'd be going in the positive directions. There's a lot of negative stuff that's happening around it. That's
Or like what though? Because maybe we can like
no. What I'm saying
argue
is
that
like,
away.
as I said, like just releasing information without giving context or like what it actually is. You're you're giving people a lot of misinformation, which is not a good thing.
But maybe he's like these people are so dumb. This is the only way it's gonna work.
No, I again, it's like I think it's like motives. It's just the way you do it. I
No,
don't
no, no,
right.
but no, no, I agree. No, no, no. Like you're thinking from so in that scenario world that I was talking about,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's a dictatorship.
Mm-hmm.
That's actually not like it's not democracy. That's a dictator. Like I own
Yeah.
everything. Like I get to call the shots. So like misinformation is just a game of the dictatorship,
Mm-hmm.
right? He's like, I'm not calling it a dictatorship, bro. I'm calling it like world peace, the
Right.
world peace initiative.
Yeah.
You know, and you're like, oh, I'm down with world peace, bro. But like at the end of the day, like remember we were saying like a long time ago on one of those podcasts, and I was saying, and it's so controversial, where it's like a totalitarian government is probably the best move forward because you have too many people who don't really understand what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the very top, it's a totalitarian like leader. Like that's what kingdoms were back in the day. Like you didn't have the peasants weighing in on who to vote in. Like you let the peasants vote, and they voted Trump in.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying? So it's like
Yeah.
Elon's probably like, okay, I get it. You can't. You have to manipulate people into doing the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like like at the heart of everyone, like the road to hell is paved with good intentions, right? So it's like I feel like you have a good intention, bro, but it is seeming a little crazy. But maybe it's crazy to us because we're like, this is not what we're operating under. Like
Mm-hmm.
I would have never expected you to like wave like would it be different
Well,
if
would
it
it
was
be? I
Obama?
don't know. I'm just thinking of someone that was like just the movie of Batman with Harvey Dent. He was trying to do everything correctly, and then it just doesn't happen. He becomes the Two Face, right?
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Like you live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
Yeah.
Or maybe you were Lex Luthor the whole time.
Who
But
knows?
we didn't see it. But
Right.
like maybe he saw what we were saying, which is like democracy just doesn't work. It just like it was a great experiment, you
Mm-hmm.
know? Like America was a great experiment. We're like, oh, democracy for the people. But it's like people can be hoodwinked so easily.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you really think about like voting, you know, me as a voter, I don't really understand the issues.
Mm-hmm.
Why am I voting liberal? Because I'm like, oh, Bolivia said something bad. But what if 90% of what he said was good? But I'm like, ah, but he said that one thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's a heuristic judgment. That's like I don't even know. Like it's not it's not strategic or logical. That was an emotional move on my part,
Mm-hmm.
right? And like that's just who we are as human beings. You can't pay enough attention to everything. So like maybe you do need somebody who's reining everyone in. You know, maybe we do need the one world government. It sounds crazy, but it's like, I mean, think about it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, really think about what we're doing right now. Like, guys, let's. I'm gonna play Elon. All right, guys. Totalitarian government's the move. I'm the person who's gonna get us there. You're like, dog, no, totalitarian government's crazy. All right, cool, cool, cool. Go do your democracy. You voted a reality TV star
Mm-hmm.
who has no government understanding, no political history, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you're like, oh, well, that's just America, bro. They're crazy. Okay, cool. We also voted in a high school teacher to teach us to lead Canada.
Mm-hmm.
Dog, what are we doing? All because he had the last name Trudeau. So like, oh, he
Mm-hmm.
must know what he's doing. He was a high school teacher, bro. What are we doing? You see what I'm
Right.
saying?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, is democracy the move? I don't know. It sounds so crazy, like to say it like that,
Sure,
but
sure,
like it's just
right.
framing, bro. Like frame it differently. Oh, I want my freedoms. I want democracy. I want to say whatever I want to say.
Hmm.
Okay, can you trust yourself to not be crazy? You see what I'm saying? You can't even make decisions in your own life. How are you gonna make governmental decisions, bro?
Yeah. No,
See,
I
I'm like,
understand. I agree with that, but I think that's these are this is where it's not perfect. I would say, right? We're gonna there will be mistakes or errors along the way because these are all human constructs, anyways. Um,
that's what I'm saying. It's a
but
human construct, bro.
but I think that democracy is still the better option, just because if you do end up getting a dictatorship,
You have to trust them.
that's the problem. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I 100% agree with you. I 100% agree with you that you you I 100% agree that you might get the wrong person in charge.
Hmm.
Okay. France. They killed the leaders. They were all starving. Those people were happy.
Hmm.
They revolted. They killed them.
Hmm.
It's like, you're right. We do need the right leader, but we could also kill you.
Hmm.
You know, like if we all band together. This is Stephen Greer's argument, which is like you can't win a hot war with the people who own UAPs. Like it's gonna, you're done.
Hmm.
Like it's like a tank's gonna do nothing to a UAP. You have gravitational control, bro. So what he's saying is we need everybody on the same page so that the pilots can stand down. Like yeah, that's the only thing that'll work. You need a literal revolt, right?
Hmm.
Like that's like the king
Yeah. Yeah.
can't. I don't know how to push this button, bro. I need you to push the button. You know?
Hmm.
So like, okay. So I think the safeguard is like we need a brilliant leader, but we also need like a safeguard, which is like you still have a union. Like we have a union, bro,
Hmm.
technically. But we're so big and crazy right now that we don't even know what's going on.
Yeah.
Like no, but for real, right? Like you're just like again a microcosm within a macrocosm. America is the shining star on the hill. And you're looking at this video of Elon Musk waving a chainsaw. You're like, dog, what are we doing? This is the shining star. Like, I don't understand what's going on. It's
Right.
like, that's crazy to me.
Yeah.
And then the fact that the people that voted for Trump are now like, did I make the right decision?
Hmm.
Like that old man and the UAP people, they're all like, yeah, he's going to release the UFO stuff. And he's like, Doc, he just said the exact same thing as the last administration. And they're like,
Hmm.
you got hoodwinked, right? But
Yeah.
Elon Musk is playing like that Lex Luthor vibe. He's like, yeah, because people are stupid, bro. Like you literally voted in a reality TV star who's gonna lie to you. His whole business is lying.
Hmm.
But they led up to this election as like, remember Elon was like, this one election is our freedoms, blah blah blah. Like this is it for mankind.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I gotta vote. I gotta vote. I gotta vote. All right. And then
There'll
okay,
be he's like
who's
there'll
Elon
be no
Musk
more
back?
elections after this or something like that, or like if
But
they lose, right? Something like that they were saying.
yeah.
But what's funny is there's some people within the Congress or Trump side wanting him to run a third term.
No. No, probably wait, hold on. Probably because they're getting away with something.
No, no, I know, but I'm saying like even to have that discussion out there is telling you that they're already trying to find ways to break their own constitution.
That is Civil War movie. The movie Civil War.
So it's like,
Maybe it was telling, bro.
so
Maybe it was telling. Dog, what if Civil War was super telling?
mm-hmm.
Like we could be heading in that direction. And like it's not even like a light thing to say. It's just like you know what's really crazy? It's like during COVID, we were speculating all of these things too, and it's just like your and I's perspective is just like one perspective of the entire whole.
Mm-hmm.
But how many people are thinking the same way that we're thinking? Or like how many people are not thinking about it and then when they listen to us think about it, they're like, yeah, those are two solid sides. Because we're trying to like just trying to play it even, bro. Play it
Yeah,
even
yeah, yeah,
keel.
sure. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like I don't think anyone's playing even keel. Everyone's got an agenda. Like I
Mm-hmm.
really think Joe Rogan's compromised.
Mm-hmm.
Like listening to him, I'm like, dog. I don't think he was so for Trump. You know, he brought Trump on, and it's like,
I mean, he broke his own word, right? Didn't he say he was never going to have
Yeah,
politicians
true.
on his
Yeah,
thing?
totally,
And
totally. Yeah,
then,
exactly, right. So it's like I don't even trust you, bro. Like I think that what they said about the again UAP narrative is like that's the apex. What they said, they're all saying this in the UAP thing. Like, what do we do about UFOs and like aliens existing, all that stuff? Look inside yourself and build love and happiness within your own life.
Mhm.
Because naturally, by doing that, you're going to like make better decisions. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? Like if I can rationally judge my own life, then I can rationally judge something else.
Mhm.
Like like if you can't look at something objectively, how can you vote objectively?
Yeah.
And that's the main problem with democracy.
Mhm.
But in the beginning, like, wasn't it you were saying it before? It's like they can only vote if they have a certain amount of land. It's like, yeah, that's because you're able to like critically think. You're a business person. Like, you're able to like, like you understood the game. Like, you can't have like
Sure.
poor
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
people like, voting.
Mhm.
And then you can skew the votes too. It's like you just, I know they did this because it was in Wild Wild Country. You would like take homeless people who could vote and you would like give them food. Remember, vote liberal, vote Republican. And they're like, yeah, yeah, I just want the food, bro. Here's
Mhm.
my vote. And you're
Yeah.
like, oh, that's voter fraud, bro. Like, and they're like, oh, voter fraud. Like, we're just writing like, no, that's voter fraud.
Mhm.
They didn't have a rational decision. Okay. You can't get a tattoo until you're like over 18.
Mhm.
Okay. Because they assume that you're able to cognitively think about the ramifications of decisions for the rest of your life.
I
Right.
don't. Yeah. Sure. Okay. I didn't
No,
know
like
his.
it's not true. It's not true. I'm just saying, like, but see how ridiculous. Right, you already laughed. So it's like that's exactly my point, bro. But they're thinking, yeah, yeah, okay. If you can get a tattoo, you can also vote.
Mhm.
They're like, dog, what? You ever see
Actually,
people
this is
with
very
ridiculous
interesting. In
tattoos?
the United States, it's more funny because it's like you can vote at 18, you can join the army at 18, but you can't drink until you're 21.
21. Yeah. So like, what the hell are we talking about, bro? You see the hypocrisy? Like, it's like human beings are so crazy,
Mhm.
you know? And I see so many people like in the UFO space, like actually not even just the UFO space. They're talking about like the comet that's gonna hit with like a 3% percentage. You saw that?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Like the asteroid's gonna hit with 3% like likelihood. And then I was reading the comments, so like let it hit, humanity's destroyed. And I'm like, I'm kind of with you. It's crazy. It's really crazy.
Mhm. Mhm.
Like you can't objectively tell me that humanity's
Maybe,
not.
maybe that's what makes sense, right? It's like it's just getting way too crazy with all this stuff. It doesn't make sense. The world's not making sense. I think here's a reset.
Dude, that is literally a biblical story. That's like what is this? Sodom and Gomorrah. That's when that's literally why Noah's Ark happened, bro.
Mhm.
The world was crazy. So then they just reset the button. They're like,
Mhm.
dog, this is too crazy right now. What are we doing? And okay, I want to. All right, let's take a like 2 second bathroom break because we drank too much coffee, and we'll jump back into this with UFOs because this is actually so aligned with UFOs and my theory of UFOs.
Sure.
But quick break now. All right, we're back. Okay, before we jump into the UFO thing, I think I think a funny title would be this because like what angle do you call this thing like, but not to like. I almost want to say like humanity be Wylin because we talked about some craziness and it's just like you don't want the clickbait on this one. Like if you make it too clickbaity and too many people hear this, like they believe in totalitarian governments. You're like, no, no, chill, 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 bro. Like
Right. Right. Right.
you want to put it out, but you don't want people to really listen. And if they
Mhm.
do listen, they're like, oh, I get why they said that. I do that sometimes because like sometimes we talk about some craziness, so it's like you can't make it too clickbaity.
Sure. Sure. Sure.
Like the Terrence Howard one that got like thousands of views. I was like, ooh, wouldn't want that for everyone because like sometimes like we just like talked about how democracy, like they don't believe in democracy. It's like, yep, crazy people are gonna be crazy. Like we're talking
Mhm.
about logically speaking, objectively, but they blew it out of proportion.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, you
Like
can clip it out and say something else that we're not really saying.
dog.
Yeah.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Um, okay, so actually, hold on. In we're watching like Southern Charm trying to catch up, right? And there was this section where they're like, it was post COVID, and they were super DEI.
Mm-hmm.
Like they were like, so it was traditionally an all white cast. Then the Black Lives Matter thing happened, and then all of a sudden that season they started to have more BIPOC people,
Mm-hmm.
and then the season before, the one we're on right now, was the Black Lives Matter movement, and like this one main character put like a monkey emoji, and then the whole series was about, and she didn't just put the monkey emoji. She was like, "You're using your minority platform to like say negative things." She's basically being like low key racist, right? And and then all the characters just wouldn't let this go. And I'm like, why are you being so like they're like, you don't understand that like I have a son, and like when they wear a hoodie down the street, they could be pulled over. I'm like, totally, I get that. But it was almost like you're going too overboard on this. Like I felt like you're going too overboard. They wouldn't let it go, right? They're like, you're so racist, blah blah blah, right? And then and then I was saying that, and then Tara's like, no, but that was the time. And I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, remember we all did the black square thing? I'm like, oh, true. Because I did that too. I was like, but it was like that moment in time where you're just like, you have to really say that you are a part of like DI culture, like Black Lives Matter. Like I was super into that too. And it's like, that was an encapsulation of the time that we were
Mm-hmm.
in. But
Mm-hmm.
then looking back now with like 2020 hindsight, you're like, oh, you're going a little too far, bro.
Mm-hmm.
You know? But like, that's another example of the microcosm that's a macro. Like we're crazy as like a species, bro. We don't even know what's going on,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
right? We're like so emotional.
Yeah, I
Okay,
mean, yeah,
so
makes sense.
right, like it's so weird, and like
Mm-hmm.
even if you want to be objective, it's like it's so impossible to like be fully objective,
Mm-hmm.
right? Okay, so before I get into my analogy or like example of like what my theory of what I think UFOs are in the whole cultural sphere of things, I want to like preface it by saying that I think that religion, especially Catholicism, holds a lot of truth. Now that I'm looking at the UFO thing, and like I'm not converting, but a lot of people have been converting to Catholicism with this UFO thing. And what they're saying is like the good and evil, like the spheres in the sky, they thought that they were angels. Like there's this thing called a Nephilim, or no, not Nephilim. I forgot. No, Nephilim is like the half hybrid. I forgot what the term was, but I had to Google it because it was in One Piece. Like they used the term, and I was like, oh, that's a UFO term. So I Googled it, and it wasn't a UFO term. Well, it was a UFO term. It was a Christian term of like this wheel in the sky um, with like angel wings, and it was like an eye in the center. And when I was reading it, they're like, that is one step before God. So it goes God, those things, angels and demons, and then humanity. And I was like, okay, that's interesting because they're saying that, like the UFO circle is saying that that thing was mistaken for UFOs because we see them all the time, like these like orby glowing things. Okay, now they see them now. So with that being said, GSP went to Africa and
Mm-hmm.
he did a safari tour, right? This is nothing to do with UFOs. He was just saying a story. And he met like some apes or something, like gorillas. I can't remember,
Mm-hmm.
some monkey. And the host was like, "Oh, how was that safari tour?" And he's like, "So GSP is like the apex of humanity. He'll kill you, right?" And he was like, "When the ape comes, the guide was like, you have to bend on one knee and look down. You have to be so submissive because like
It's
it will
probably a
kill
gorilla
you."
then. Yeah.
A gorilla. Okay, cool. Yeah, probably. So like you have to be super submissive because it will kill you, right? And then the host was like, "Well, you're GSP, bro. You can kill it." He's like, "No, no. This thing will break your fingers. So and like it will pull you apart with ease,
Mm-hmm.
right?" So he was saying that I guess his gorillas, yeah, sure. They will break your fingers, they will scratch your face, and they'll rip your nutsack off. That's
Mm.
how they kill people. And he was like, I was like, that sounds so barbaric. And he was saying like, no, no, it's because you break the fingers so they can't climb away. You take the scrotum off so that they can't reproduce, and you slash their face so nobody knows who they were. And I was like, that is sadistic, bro.
Mm-hmm.
right? But it makes sense, in that animal jungle. So he gets down, and then like the guide. So like he's saying that like whenever these tours land, the gorilla, I guess, will come out, see what's going on, and then be like, okay, that's cool, and they'll go back into their shade. Okay, so he lands with the guide, and then the gorilla comes out as usual. He sees the guide, and he's like, all right, cool. He looks at GSP, and he's like, GSP is like, oh crap. They're like, don't look at the gorilla in the eyes, right? So he like looks straight at GSP, and he starts walking like he's pissed at GSP, and GSP's like, oh my god. So he like goes on one knee and like is submissive, and he's like praying God, like, please don't let this thing kill me in front of everyone, right? So then he like kind of peeks, and he's like, oh, the gorilla's standing behind me back to back. And then he's like, he asked the guy later, like, why did it do that? And he said that the gorilla is so unharmed by you that it's willing to give its
Mm-hmm.
back,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
right?
Right.
Okay, we are the gorilla. So in the UFO lore, right? Think of that. That again, that little story had nothing to do with UFOs. But like, think about that as an analogy.
Mm-hmm.
GSP came with a tour to come see the gorilla. Like, dude, these things will kill you, right? And And GSP was like, "Oh crap!" Right? And then the gorilla's like, "What are these things? I don't know what these things are. UAPs, bro. Basically the UAPs." But they don't. The gorilla doesn't realize that the human, the GSP, the alien in the gorilla's mind is attached to a UAP. The UAP is attached to a tour guide. The tour guide is attached to a society. The society is attached to a world government. The gorilla is just living in its own little like hut. He comes out, it's like, "Oh, what's that? All right, go back in."
Mm-hmm.
You know? But like there's a small interaction with a bigger story behind it,
Right.
right? All these moving parts. And I think that's what we are, bro. I think we are the gorilla in a whole ecosystem that we are unaware of, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and Tom DeLonge said this before. He's like, but he said it so casually, and I was like, I don't really get what you're saying, right? Until I heard this story, and I was like, oh, that's us. So like, if we're fish in the ocean, right? We're swimming, and then you see a piece of trash, right? You're like, what's that trash? But you
Yeah.
don't realize, like, we're fixating on that as being like a UAP, but it's like, no, dog. There's trash related to this the person. The person's related to a family. The family's, you know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
that's probably what they say when they're like, it's too big for your mind because we can't even conceptualize outside of our own reality.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so with that all being said, and like the thing about Christianity being real, I think that religion is a codification of UFO encounters that we just can't really explain. And these people who like have interacted with UFOs, they gain some knowledge, like Jesus, Buddha, all that stuff. They gain some knowledge that is provided by the UFOs, and they're just trying to tell us like this is the Billy Carson forbidden knowledge theory, like cargo cults. And I think that that actually makes total sense that like we were discovered because a lot of UAP people were like the Earth is 4 billion years old or something, and we've been around for 1,000. How do you know we haven't been discovered before we discovered them?
Mm-hmm.
And how do you? Because like there's this thing about like underwater UFOs, USOs, underwater submersible objects, and like all of these stories from like Christopher Columbus, he saw some like glowing orb comes out. They read it like, what? What's this is the UFO thing, right? And like they just didn't know what it was at the time. So like if we do have underwater submergible bases, it actually totally makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because like where else are you gonna hide? Hide in plain sight. And it's not even nefarious. Like I don't think they're doing anything crazy. I think they're just like us on a tour, bro.
Mm-hmm.
Like GSP on the thing. Like there's some studies going on, there's some resource extraction, there's some tours going on. There's all this happening, and we are the gorilla that thinks its entire world is all there is.
Right.
What do you think?
Sure.
No, like logically, all the pieces seem to fit this one narrative because like we're alone in the universe. It's like it's crazy hubris to think that we are like all there is, or we know everything. That's crazy to think.
No, no, no. I don't think that. I think that'd be. I mean, that's dumb. And then there'd be no science.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, totally. And then to think that how long science been around? World War II, let's say. Like
Well, modern
really
science,
science.
sure.
Modern science. Yeah, that's what I mean. Like before it was magic, right? It's like modern science, World War II, let's say. Or like World War One. Let's go back, let's say 200 years. I'll give you 300 years.
I mean, yeah, I think it's been there for a while, right? If you want to, depending on how far you want back, you want to go. But like, if what's his name, Newton, right? Like that's before
Yeah.
World War II, right?
Yeah, so let's give it a ballpark number. 500 years?
Sure.
Sure, 500 years. Okay, 500 years. Human beings have been on Earth for 100,000 years. Before that, there were dinosaurs. This Earth's been here for 4 billion years. Dog, it's been 500 years. What do you think you've learned in 500 years?
Hmm.
That's like 7 people ago.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I'm like, this actually is the only thing that really makes sense because we're seeing things that we don't even know. Like, what is that thing, right? And we're reverse engineering crafts from those things. So it's like, okay, so there's obviously an advanced technology that brings us like something. Maybe they're like, like GSP, the gorilla. They're like, hey, I'm gonna give you fire, gorilla. You can make some food, bro.
Hmm.
I'm like, oh, we can make food now. You know, it could be like that. Like I really think that that's the most likely scenario. If other alien, if it's like an interdimensional thing, that's crazy. Or like, all right, good versus evil, God, devil, like sure, okay, cool. Um, that's a whole nother level if it's an interdimensional spiritual being. But let's just say on the logical, like tangible physical reality, if there are other life out there and they found us before we found them, that's probably what all of this is. And the reason why the government's been hiding it is because then they would lose their control. Like by default, they would lose their control because it's like, okay, so what does like shouldn't we band together and become like one world that like interacts with this other world? Like wouldn't that
Hmm.
make more sense? You know what I mean? Like why would you have like 7 different countries like interacting with or maybe that is what's going on. Like the UN was created after the World War II, right? Something like that.
Yeah.
So maybe the UN is interacting with these like extraterrestrial beings. And like when they said that there's like bases on the moon and like there's bases underwater, it's like that logically makes sense, bro. We just think it's crazy because it's outside of the realm of our scientific understanding at this point.
Hmm.
But that's because we're the gorilla meeting GSP, bro. We're like
Hmm.
I don't understand how this helicopter works, you know?
Right.
Like so like yeah, I don't know. Like what do you think? That's the thing that makes the most sense in my mind
Hmm.
now. Like what do you think?
Sure. I don't know if it's possible.
No,
Right.
I mean like logically, like okay, we agreed like 3 podcasts ago or something. You agreed that UAPs are real. So it's like okay, so what's the story behind that? Like why is it tethered together,
Hmm.
right? Because you can't have reverse engineered vehicles without having a vehicle.
Hmm.
And then they fully said we're reverse engineering vehicles. So you're like, okay, where'd that come from, bro? So like we know that there's something outside of what we know, but like what's the greater narrative here? And the only thing that makes sense because nature does it all the time, which is like safaris, bro. Like we
Hmm.
are just like a small subset, but we can't think of that gorilla that met GSP, right?
Hmm.
He's like, oh, what is that, right? And then he goes to his leaders and he's like, hey, so I met these things, and those leaders know like, yeah, 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 totally, totally, totally. And then they hearing all these stories of like we met these things, and they're like, okay, cool. So we know that there's another thing out there. We need to keep it from our regular baby gorillas, or else they're all gonna freak out and be like, "What else is out there?" And we get too industrious, too curious, because
Hmm.
it loses control. And I think that like human beings, like we were talking about the Elon Musk thing, like I think we're crazy, and we need control. Like we can't go all haywire, Like how will we
Hmm.
have societies?
Hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
I don't know, arguments or thoughts.
I mean, these are, we're prone to trying to pattern recognize, right? That's our evolutionary
Yeah,
background.
but for sure. But like you're just looking at nature, like how nature works. It's like
Hmm.
I don't see
Yeah, I know.
unless
That's what I'm saying. Yeah,
unless it's like yeah.
I mean, this is part of our pattern recognition. tools.
No. But okay, totally. I'm not. The thing is this. I'm not guessing. I'm taking all of the information of what I've heard of what's going on, and I'm
Hmm.
like, okay, this seems to be the most accurate narrative
Right.
given everything. I'm not like shunning other people's theories out. I'm like, okay, this person said this, that lines with this. This person said that, that lines with that.
Hmm. Hmm.
What's the underlying theme here? I'm like I'm looking at the through line of
Yeah,
this
yeah, yeah.
whole situation.
Right.
I'm not making this up as like, oh,
No,
this
no,
could
no.
be a
I'm
cool
not saying
story.
that.
You
I'm
know
not
what I
saying
mean?
that. But that's what I'm saying. Like, based on your um, experience, this is the patterns that you're recognizing.
Yeah, yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Unless it's like outside of the realm of our humanity, and it really does have to do with like angels and demons and us being because the
Yeah, I know.
other
That's what I'm
theories,
saying. Yeah, you're following what your pattern, what you're recognizing, right? That's what I'm saying.
yes, oh, sure, but isn't that science though? You're looking at correlation causation. Correlation
Uh,
is just like, oh, there's a pattern here. What's the cause? I'm looking at the causality. It's like, well, what is the through line, bro? Like, you know,
sure.
like I'm taking
Yeah.
all the correlations and I'm like, okay, this makes the most sense
Mm-hmm.
out of everything.
Mm-hmm.
Unless the only thing it's either that's the physical reality model, okay? Or what everyone else is saying is that we are meat vehicles for souls and we are literally playing out this battle of good and evil to see if we go to heaven,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because it's a spiritual component. Like we
Yeah.
join God and God gave us free will,
Mm-hmm.
which is like Catholicism 101, right? But like that's the only other option because they're saying like
That's it. Like for those people, they find a pattern that leads in that direction too, right?
right, but see the difference is I'm just saying both patterns. I'm like, okay, physical reality pattern is this.
Mm-hmm.
Um, interdimensional pattern is this.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, well, like it could be one or the other, but if we're just playing on the physical reality plane, this one makes the most sense.
Mm-hmm.
That we are like
Sure.
gorillas, you know? And if that's true, it's almost like because everyone said this as well, like Lou Elizondo said this. Actually, maybe that's oh wow, it all just clicked. That's probably why Lou Elizondo said we're the gorilla with the gun showing up at the doorstep of the human. So like if you go on tour, if you go to the zoo and then you leave the cage unlocked and then the gorilla finds a gun and then shows up at your door, that's basically us to these UFOs.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, what do you mean? But like hearing the safari thing, it's like actually that makes sense, right? So, um, so like we could have unlocked something, which is like the nuclear power, and that nuclear power creates anti-gravity, which creates us to like bend space and time, allows you to go meet these people, like these like other races, and they're worried about us becoming like a warlike species because we're crazy,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's one theory. But okay, what what makes something an apex predator? This is another like weird takeaway that I was like, oh, this actually makes the most sense too. Like
Right.
how like are humans the apex predator?
It depends on when you categorize it, right?
Uh okay, well what is your categorization of an apex predator?
So I mean, is tool building part of our ability, or is like, I guess.
You hit the nail on the head. It's exactly what I was thinking too. It's not what makes you an apex predator is not you, it's technology.
Mm-hmm.
Technology is the apex predator. It's not us. Because think about this, GSP,
Yeah, that's what I'm
best
saying.
fighter
Yeah,
in the
if it
world.
was just us as our own ability, we'll lose to almost everything.
Right. And I think that that's what the UFOs are too. The aliens that pilot these crafts, they need those vehicles because they're like, that's what's keeping us, the apex, away from you guys.
Mm-hmm.
But like hand to hand combat, I'm sure we can take an alien, bro. Like from the stories, they're frail and small and thin. You're
Well, I mean, it
like,
makes sense, right? If they have to be frail and small without any gravity for traveling in space, you end up
right,
becoming smaller. Yeah.
right, totally. So you need well, I mean theoretically, like you create your own gravity in the gravity bubble. But what they're saying is like you don't need muscles anymore because like you're relying more on
Yeah, there's other
technology.
things. Yeah, yeah, sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
that'll happen because you're not using these other things,
Right.
right? Yeah.
Right. Totally. Totally. You know what's a crazy thing? I was saying this to Tara. So so speaking of using your body, the most fascinating thing that I have come to see is how we thought that growing muscles was about going to the gym and lifting weights,
Hmm.
right? You're like, okay, if you want to get jacked, just go to the gym, lift some weights, right? So untrue. Look at gymnasts, you look at jujitsu people, you look at rock climbers, you're like, dog, you guys are jacked in the most weirdest ways,
Hmm.
right? And being in these circles now, like Temple Jiu-Jitsu and like rock climbing a lot, these people don't work out, but they're really jacked in a different way. Like
Hmm.
I was saying to her that you can now that you see it, it's like you can see who's like sculpted, which is like using bicep curls and like bench presses, and then you can see people who are um, like I don't know what the politically correct term is, but like short people.
Hmm.
You know, like short people are like stocky and they're kind of built weird. It's almost like a short person in a tall person's body
Yeah.
because their
Right.
core is like, you know what I mean? Their core is
Yeah.
like
Yeah. Yeah.
super dense. And you're like, dog, what the hell? And then like their arms are like super thick, but they're
Yeah. Yeah.
not
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. Yeah. And their
you know what I mean?
legs are tiny. Yeah. I know what you're talking
Right? And it's like, but they're grapplers. Like you look at you're like, oh, you're a grappler, bro. You
about.
don't go
Hmm.
to the gym. You're just a
Sure.
grappler. And then you start feeling like, oh, you're really strong. So like even with rock climbing, like my forearms have become like weirdly like Tara's like, oh, why are they deformed? And I'm like, it's the muscle that you can only build by climbing. And then it made me realize like, dude, like the bodies are so like our bodies are so
Yeah. Yeah.
adaptable.
Yeah.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like whatever you do, it's your body will just give you whatever you're doing, right?
Hmm.
So like
It's like the tennis
that
players, right?
goes
The one arm for the tennis players all jacked,
right.
the other one's not.
Yeah, you get
Yeah.
like one jacked arm, yeah, totally, totally. And then their body's like lean because that's
Mm.
all they do. And they're just like running, but also strong arm, you know?
Yeah.
And like so with that in mind, it's like, yeah, okay, so the aliens will use more technology, so you don't need to be jacked in specific ways.
Hmm.
So like I physically can take you,
Hmm.
right? However, you have technology on your side, right?
Hmm.
Like they flew in with the helicopter GSP and the gorilla, and it's like, yeah, he could take you one on one, but we have like rifles, we have bombs, bro. Like
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah.
we could technically kill you, right? So at the end of the day, technology is like the apex predator. It's not it's not you. It's not a species.
Hmm.
Any species can be wiped out with technology.
Yeah.
Okay, okay. Last thing, because I know we're like running so long. Um, Speaking of technology, and I was saying like unlimited free energy, like the robots taking over your job so you don't have to work, you just live the rest of your life all happy, right? So that's like apex technology, right? Like technology. Well, what would a world look like if that happened? We wouldn't put ourselves through physicality at all because we're like, oh, I don't need to do anything, right? Which is what the aliens are. But so I ran out of anime. Okay, I'm like trying to. I've binged every single thing that I find interesting, and even the ones that like people like, oh, recommend it, I'll watch it. But I'm like, ah, it's not for me, right?
Hmm.
So like in terms of things I find interesting, I'm done. However, it allowed me to go back and watch The Gentleman, like Guy
Mm.
Ritchie's
Yeah. Yeah.
not the movie, the TV show.
Yeah.
Okay, and I realized something. Life would be extremely boring if there wasn't any negativity. The
Hmm.
only reason why art is so entertaining is because of the negative.
Hmm.
Like Kendrick Lamar's Not Like Us. That was a hate song
Yeah. Yeah.
and it took over the world.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, it's interesting because they're living outside the law. They're
Hmm.
doing like various things. But we just spoke about world peace, bro. You know what I mean? So it's
Yeah. Yeah.
like so where does that live? Does art die with world peace? What are we giving up in order to have a perfect world?
Hmm.
How trippy is that?
True.
Right?
Yeah.
And you're
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
maybe we don't want utopia, bro. Maybe the thing we're asking for
Uh,
is the thing we actually don't want.
right. Maybe that's the. I think it could be like that's the striving thing that you try to go for, but I don't know if it's ever achievable, right? If that
Or
ever.
you don't want it to be achievable.
I don't know if, I mean, that's if you know it, right? I'm saying you want that to be achievable, but I don't, if it's like, if it's a goal that never really is
It's
a
like
real
asymptote.
thing. Yeah, it's like tomorrow never is here, right? It's always going to be a
Yeah.
tomorrow. It's like that.
Yeah. You keep approaching the line, but you
Yeah,
never actually hit the line.
you'll never hit the line. Yeah.
Yeah, because but that's what I'm saying. We don't actually want world peace. I don't think we really want it. Because if you really think about world peace, it's like there's like what are we gonna
No,
live for,
I
bro?
think that I don't think it's ever achievable. We'll probably try to get as close as we can, but I don't know if it's like that, as you said, that graph will never be zero.
But okay, but what if you do hit it through like injecting yourself with dopamine and like you know what I mean?
I think maybe world peace or anything like that would be then is when we find a way to defeat death.
Oh yes, because that's the ultimate sadness. Actually, we were watching wait with like reality TV shows. We were like the like Love Is Blind, for example.
Mm-hmm.
You the only way this ends is through divorce or someone dies.
Mm-hmm.
So the maybe the whole happiness thing, you're like, I have like 50 years of happiness is building you up so that you can tolerate the saddest thing of all is them dying.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like it's
Yeah.
bookmarked by sadness.
Right.
And that's like we need that though.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, unless you overcome death, actually that's a good point. If you overcome death, then like yeah, okay. Well, like what else is there to live for?
Yeah.
Maybe that's why we die. We need death,
Mm-hmm.
or else it's like boring.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So one last quick thing because you like sparked me of like when we were talking about injections and stuff of like dopamine. This is super crazy. So like you know the Epstein thing,
Sure.
right? So take the Epstein like child trafficking stuff.
Yeah.
Now we know about psionics and
Mm-hmm.
how children are the most predisposed to this psychic ability.
Mm-hmm.
That's a weird causal link, and why. And then one thing that Sean Ryan said, he didn't put this together, but I'm like, that's kind of weird that that was there, which is like the child trafficking, the psionics, and the government isn't admitting what's on the Epstein list, and they're also not talking about psionics. So
Mm-hmm.
like, were you actually abducting psychic children in order to pilot these UAP crafts? Like, is that what's really going on? That's crazy to me. And then remember how Jake Barber on that thing on the first interview, he was like, "Oh, they're so happy. Like these psionics are like they're always put through like happy times, right?" Um, One thing he said in another interview is you can also stimulate this through fear. He said it like very casually. You know, he's like, we know that they take care of them, but like, you can also stimulate this through fear.
Mm-hmm.
And then in another separate podcast, not Jake Barber, they're like, they're drugging these people and terrorizing them so that they'll induce a psychic ability and then call into these vehicles and pilot them. And remember, we mentioned that? We're like, let's get, like, are you
Oh
sure
yeah. Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
remember, like, how do you know that they're not just injecting like heroin
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
making them
Mm-hmm.
happy? Something crazy is going, again, microcosm with the macrocosm. Like, what is going on with these UAPs, bro? Are you abducting little children and terrorizing them in order to like pilot your vehicles? Is this devil worship? Like, what are we talking about here?
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, all right, that was my last thing. What a horrible way to end that, but it like sparked my memory of like that thing. Not saying it's true, but like
Right.
humans are wild, bro. Any final thoughts?
Yeah. I mean, yeah. It's an interesting
It's
time.
crazy. No, it's crazy. I know you're gonna be
Yeah,
like,
it's
it's
crazy.
interesting. I'm like, no, it's crazy, bro. You got Elon Musk waving, uh, freaking chainsaw. You got like hidden technology. You have like child abductions, like the Epstein list that we're not talking about anymore. We're not talking about anymore, which
Yeah.
is
I wonder.
crazy.
I wonder why.
Are you abducting children in order to pilot these psychic vehicles? Like, what are we talking about, bro?
Mm-hmm.
You know? I don't know.
Or
Wild
somebody's
times.
somebody's really close friends with that person.
Could be two. Yeah, you're right. You're right. There's like a logical explanation. There's a crazy one. I just jumped to the crazy one because
No, no,
like,
I'm not saying they're not. Maybe they could still could be related. We don't know that.
right, bro, crazy. Anyways, oh well, okay, well, sorry, because they're saying like love and suffering are two ways to induce psychic abilities, either through immense feelings of love or immense feelings of terror. So
Hmm.
I'm like, that's really weird. It's like angel demon type of stuff. Like, what are we talking about? You know what I mean? Like, this could go one of two ways. Yeah. Anyways, hopefully we find out more in 2025. Yeah. All right. Till next week. Daisy Fish.
Peace.
Bye. All right. Hope you enjoyed that episode. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, all those fun things, and check out our sponsors: Zenro Clothing Co., Portian Bakery, and Podbean. Take it easy, Fish.
Peace.